You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
This episode of Mission Log is sponsored by Rocket Money. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/missionlog. That's rocketmoney.com/missionlog. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/missionlog.
Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, episode 511, concerning flight.
Welcome into another episode of Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm Norman Lau.
And I'm John Champion. Each week on Mission Log, we explore the new worlds of Star Trek, one episode at a time, and through a combination of science and magic, determine the morals, meanings, and messages worth analysis. Maestro, if you please.
This week, concerning flight, the one which is not only about flight, but also causes some concern for those people about to fly.
We'll have a chance to get inventive with our trivia and commentary in a moment, but first, here's Norman to tell you how to reach us.
Mission Log is a conversation about Star Trek. Drop us a line at missionlog@roddenberry.com and join us on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Facebook at Mission Log Pod. While you're at it, leave us a review and a rating at Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And please remember your comments could be used on Mission Log or Engage on the Roddenberry YouTube channel. And now, here's John Champion with this week's trivia.
Well, thank you very much. This week's show concerning flight, we have a story by Jimmy Diggs and Joe Menosky. They share a story credit on this one, and both of those names should be familiar, of course. Joe, who has been working as executive story editor on the show at this time, and Jimmy has already contributed Dr. Bashir, I presume, to DS9, and his most recent Voyager credit that we covered was Rise. Now, the teleplay credit goes solely to Joe Menosky, but this is one of those stories that had a troubled development from page to screen. The premise had started out as simply a way to use the mobile emitter, and then an adventure happens. Brannon Braga is the one who suggested putting Leonardo da Vinci front and center, and the story grew from there. But in the collaborative nature of TV script writing, Joe was often at odds with the influence of other writers and producers on the show. Changes were being made right up until the last minute, even as the cameras were rolling. It is an interesting note, too, that Joe is a fan of Leonardo, and he was able to pull from his own extensive knowledge to help flesh out the character for the episode. The show was directed by Jesus Salvador Trevino, and we're right in the middle of his 5-episode credits on Voyager. Jesus had also directed 3 for DS9, and on Voyager, we most recently discussed his work with the episode Day of Honor. Now, of course, you spend a good deal of time in sound stages on this episode, but there are some stunning location shots here, and they may look a little familiar to you all. You have a location used pretty much as is in the Santa Monica Mountains, and then you've got some shots where they've done some pretty extensive matte painting coverage over those mountains. But it was sort of designed around those mountains so you could have this one place to do the launch of Leonardo's flying machine. But of course, it's all local and easily accessible to a studio in Hollywood, being in the Santa Monica Mountains. All right, now let's meet our guest stars. We have an unnamed alien who drops by Voyager, and he is played by Don Pugsley. Part of his adulthood was taken up with military service. Don was a Green Beret and served in the Special Forces. In the 80s, he turned his attention to performing and landed a number of feature film roles, along with TV guest star spots. He's in Fat Man and Little Boy, Naked Gun 2.5, The Revenant, and he's in The Rocketeer as Goose. The episode's antagonist, a dealer of objects of dubious provenance, is Tao, played by John Vargas. Now, this is the first time we've highlighted John, but it is not the first time we've seen him in Star Trek. With his human face, John was Jedha, one of the scientists aboard Regular One, but he met an untimely end when Captain Terrell, under Khan's influence, blasted him with a phaser. Okay, well, technically Terrell wasn't aiming at Jedha, so I guess Savick is to thank for that. You guys can debate it later. John has an extensive resume going back to the early 80s, and he has some notable long recurring roles on popular shows. He spent a while on Santa Barbara, Days of Our Lives, and General Hospital. He jumped over to Silk Stalkings, At Ease, and Action, and most recently he has appeared on SWAT. And finally, Captain Janeway's holodeck mentor come to life, Leonardo da Vinci, is played once again for the second and final time here by the great John Rhys Davies.
Does this episode actually concern flight, or does it concern a flight that is also very concerning? Should I be worried?
Prologue. In the holodeck simulation of Leonardo da Vinci's workshop, the Maestro is humiliated after the failure of his prototype flying machine. Janeway tries to give him the encouragement he needs, but he's so fed up with it all that he plans to move to France and work with the much more sympathetic and rich king. Their conversation is interrupted, though, when alien fire on Voyager takes Janeway's attention back to the bridge, and the Maestro perceives it as an earthquake. All the more reason to move to France. Act 1. Yep, feisty little alien ships are unleashing weapon volleys on Voyager to keep the crew on their toes. But what's more odd is that they are beaming away some of Voyager's more important tech. Rations, warp diagnostics, weapons, medical equipment, the main computer, even the doctor's mobile emitter. Voyager can fire back manually and sends the attackers away, but the ship is hobbled. First priority is to shore up defenses against another potential transporter attack, and then track down and recover the missing gear. 7 of 9 and Harry Kim are on the case by boosting Voyager's sensor array, and they are fine. Whatever, they're working together. The less said about that, the better. Moving on. 10 days later, Voyager finds a planet thriving off multi-alien species trading and strong signals from Federation equipment on the surface. Janeway forms landing parties to give it a look. In a busy trading marketplace, Janeway and Tuvok pinpoint a Starfleet signal, but it's not Voyager's missing computer. It's Leonardo da Vinci wearing the doctor's mobile emitter and shouting, "Welcome to America," to his friend. Act 2. Leonardo doesn't know how he got here, but he's got a healthy imagination for a hologram. His attention quickly turns to a trader who has a part Leonardo needs for his next invention to keep his patron happy. While he's distracted, Janeway and Tuvok surmise that the Leonardo program was running when they were attacked and happened to be downloaded into the stolen mobile emitter. So here's a 16th century simulation reacting to the new world as only he can, carving out a life here and carrying out his work for the prince. So with some new kit, the three of them head off to the Maestro's new workshop. It's full of Leonardo's touches, along with some very advanced technology, like phasers for one thing. While Leonardo seems more concerned with getting his failed flying machine to work, he is aware of the awesome power of this weapon that shoots lightning and can vaporize anything in its path, compliments of the patron who Janeway is curious to meet. Meanwhile, on Voyager, Tom Paris and Neelix have returned from their away mission with an alien who happens to have traded with someone for a Starfleet phaser, tricorder, and uniform. Chakotay backs him into a corner to get some more info about where those stolen goods came from. The alien complies. It's from a powerful trader named Tau, who controls a large province and deals in the weapons and goods he steals from passing ships. Cut to an alien in the market for weapons trying to broker a deal with Tau. Tao is smooth, but also a bit intimidating when he directly implies to his waffling customer that he'll gladly sell weapons to that one's enemies if he balks at the price. Around this time, Janeway spots the patron, Tao, from a distance and wants to get a closer look. She sends Tuvok to distract Leonardo, which is just enough time to strike up a conversation with Tao. Janeway pretends to represent a client looking for a powerful computer that can coordinate an entire colony. And coincidentally, Tao has just the right item. He activates an interface that has a very familiar voice, the Voyager computer. Janeway wants it, but Tao names his price, nothing less than a trade for a warship. Act 3. In Leonardo's new workshop, Tuvok reviews the Maestro's maps, which could aid Voyager's computer in helping to locate where Tao is hiding all of his stolen goods. When Leonardo enters after a long rest, Tuvok pauses the program to insist that they return to Voyager and finish their recon there. Janeway wants to stay, though, and to let the Leonardo program continue to run, because that might be an advantage to finding the missing items from Voyager. On the ship, the Doctor tries to make small talk, well, fishing for gossip, more like, from 7 of 9, but she's not all that forthcoming. She returns to astrometrics to help Tuvok use their scanner data, along with Leonardo's maps, to pinpoint a location of Voyager's computer core. They're successful, but the building they identify is protected by a dispersion field. Someone, Janeway, will need to go inside and initiate a power surge. That would allow the transporter to lock onto it and beam it away, and anything or anyone else back to Voyager. Tuvok opens up a channel to Janeway to explain the plan, but there's an unexpected visitor in the workshop, Tao. He hears the whole thing, and he's got Janeway at gunpoint, demanding that she hand over the comm badge. Act 4. Thank goodness Leonardo sneaks up from behind and knocks Tao unconscious. While that helps Janeway, Leonardo is convinced that he wants to stay in this new world, if only because he has so many more resources and the respect of the people around him. Janeway insists, though, this place is a prison, and he does not belong here. He's needed at home, and Janeway needs him too. And that's why he changes his mind for Katarina. On Voyager, the bridge crew are able to track the mobile emitter, which indicates that Leonardo and potentially Janeway are on the way to track down Voyager's computer, which they are. They make their way into a large industrial facility where Tao has been stashing his stolen gear, a whole lot of it from Voyager. Janeway finds the computer and initiates an overload, which will tip off Voyager for their precise location. Transporters are activated, and well, here's Tao now with his weapon drawn, and he fires directly at Leonardo. The beam passes through him, and while he's distracted, Janeway incapacitates Tao with a blow to the back of his head. Leonardo is seriously confused about what just happened, but Janeway encourages him to come along to safety via a site-to-site transporter. They escape, but back on Voyager, enemy ships are closing in fast. Act 5. Having transported to temporary safety on a mountainside, Leonardo is still trying to get his head around these technological marvels, the computer, the site-to-site transport. Janeway tries her best to put it into context, that there may be realities beyond the limits of human comprehension, and Leonardo now finds himself in one. They can't talk long, though, as Tao is in pursuit, but Leonardo directs Janeway to a higher point on the mountain. Voyager flies to a lower orbit in order to transport Janeway and Leonardo, signaled by the mobile emitter. That's dangerous, considering they are also fighting off those attacking vessels. On the ground, Leonardo has a surprise for Janeway. Just as Tao's guards get closer, they approach a new prototype of the flying machine with some improvements since the last failed attempt. As Tao's guard opens fire, they have only this chance to escape and push off from the precipice. In the right position, Voyager is able to pick up the mobile emitter along with Janeway and the flying machine and beam the lot of them into a cargo bay. Voyager out. Now with some downtime, Janeway checks in on Leonardo in the holodeck. He's busy packing for France. After his recent experiences and proving his glider works, he's off for a new opportunity with someone who appreciates his creativity. He's newly inspired by what he has seen, and Katerina gives him the encouragement to seek out new worlds by walking him off to his holo carriage. The end.
Nice and toit, John.
You know, some episodes lend themselves to being toit like a toiger.
Like a toiger,
So,
yeah.
Thank you, yeah. Now we get to have a little fun with it. What do you got for me to kick things off?
One of these days, we'll actually encounter like a Voyager episode that actually does have a tiger. Then what are we going to do?
That will be the Toitus episode, yeah.
Toitus, T-O-I-G-H-T. Here's a question. So Janeway's in the Da Vinci program at the very beginning, in the prologue. And she's in uniform, but she's been in cosplay in the holonovels that she was in, so why not with Da Vinci?
You know, that's... I'm so glad you phrased that, because as you're saying it, I'm sitting here thinking, well, the computer can see the human player however the computer wants to see it. That's just an interactive character for the computer. And it doesn't matter what the human player is wearing, right? So when a human or other organic entity walks into a holodeck simulation, wearing a costume is really just for yourself and for the other human or organic players.
Yeah.
You know? It really is. That's kind of cool.
So we saw in the prologue that Janeway and Da Vinci were both drenched by plunging into the river.
Plunge into the river.
Yeah. So when she appears on the bridge in Act 1, either she left the holodeck and the holographic water just evaporated, or she changed.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
I
holographic water evaporates?
I guess so, although remember when Wesley Crusher threw a snowball out of the holodeck, it still hit and, didn't it hit Picard in the face? That holographic water made it out into the hallway, but I don't know. So many mysteries. Look, I'm going to have many, many questions about this episode and the logistics thereof.
So, John's already setting the stage.
Only just starting with the holodeck.
All right.
First of all, I want to know how these aliens just know what to beam away, because it seemed very specific, very precise. Like, here's this tray of medical equipment, but we're going to take the emitter, and then we're going to take this whole computer. I guess then they know how to hook it up to things, so they took that as well, or do they just take things that they think can get away with and they figure it out later? That seems like a waste of time and resources. And does the Doctor need to give his mobile emitter a rest from time to time? Because I think he likes it quite a lot, so I'm surprised that he doesn't have it on. It's just there on a tray, just like, oh, here's this thing that I'm not going to wear right now. I'm going to let Voyager's computer take over and project me for a while. That seems very convenient.
Well, he's got to stick it on the magnetic charger.
It's got like the chi charger. Yeah,
exactly.
So he's using that. Yeah. Tuvok every now and then gets a good line. I have the will, but not the means.
I loved that line. Loved it.
Janeway tells him to fire at will. Yeah, nice bit.
But kind of like springboarding off of that, though, firing at will. All of these aliens, they transport stuff willy-nilly off the ship, haphazardly.
Yeah.
And then Janeway orders Voyager to just fire blindly at any moving target. So what if she destroyed the actual ship that actually had her computer, the main computer console on it, or the main computer component on it, or anything that was really important?
They do blow up a ship.
I mean, they did. They destroyed a ship.
It's
what would happen? It's like, well, we destroyed a ship that had our main computer component on it. Well, okay. So
or it destroyed it. Nothing else but the holo emitter. sorry, Doctor.
Or maybe to Tom Paris's point, the emergency rations.
The rations, everything else is safe.
Yeah.
Except for the emergency rations. Yeah. I did wonder though how much of Voyager's systems you can take away and things will still work. Because think about it, they took away the computer, they took away warp diagnostics, but Voyager is still able to maneuver and fire back and have life support, importantly. So they seem hobbled, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, we're fine. We're just slower.
I mean, Chakotay said, like, activate backup systems, and there's always that kind of like that funny kind of like, trope of auxiliary systems. We don't really know. I mean, I'm sure somebody does. I mean, you're very smart people out there.
Of course.
What they all do, like Battle Bridge type stuff. But I mean, when you lose your main computer, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got a lot of equipment in here in this room with me, but if you take away the computer,
John, just activate the backup computer.
I'm not making a podcast. Right. Oh God, I pointed it out, but another awkward Harry and 7 of 9 say we're gonna skip it. We're just going to move right on.
Pin that, please.
Okay, all right. I am very much in love with the matte painting right over the Santa Monica Mountains. I'm going to come back to that, too. But I just wanted to point out the earliest shot of it that we get. Pretty extensive, a lot of background and foreground stuff. Very cool.
I do love Tuvok's away team uniform.
Oh, he looks great.
So it's a really, if you look like really, really closely at it, it's a really nice combination of like the monster maroon pattern with the tunic flap.
Yeah.
But it also has like the DS9 quilting like on the upper part of his uniform.
Yeah.
But, and I know that I don't want to break the timeline, but it even looks like with the thicker piping that goes diagonally across his chest and down, it looks like something like this could have been the inspiration for maybe some of the current Star Trek uniform design patterns.
Some of the post 2017 Trek era.
It's really, really nice. I mean, it's really good. That's a cosplay worth doing for sure.
Yeah. I do wonder when they get there, why did Tuvok and Janeway just assume that everything was stolen? Like, I mean, they're right, because their stuff was stolen, but you just get there. There's a lot of things here. They must be stolen.
Yeah.
It is kind of like they're dealing with Pac-Leds, only more competent. So
is that possible?
Well, yeah.
They are smart.
History.
They are smart.
Yeah. Please don't think too hard about how the Leonardo simulation is running. Please turn things off when you're not using them, people. That's just a good lesson right away, right up front. And then that simulation is downloaded into the Doctor's emitter because somehow the Doctor wasn't using it, and his program was safe in Voyager's computer, which I guess is not part of it that got stolen. So there's a lot of coincidental stuff going on here.
One of our Discord listeners, and fantastic in terms of all these details. So I'm challenging Pax Federatica. You hear this?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so you make sense of all of this. I know you can.
We're going to get a flow chart.
Yeah, you can.
Yes.
In Da Vinci's like new lab, I love seeing the sharper image plasma ball. Everyone knows what the sharper image plasma ball is in his
so cool
in his lab.
Yeah.
In Da Vinci's lab also, there are like all of these recreations of all of these inventions and his maps, and including his own admission that he recreated like this model of his great bird invention.
Yeah.
In 10 days, he's done all of this, not to mention all of the topographical maps that he's articulated since he's been there. So do you believe that, John?
When he's inspired, I guess he can do just about anything.
I guess so. When Janeway picked up the phaser, though, on the table in his lab, it reminded me of that scene when Kirk explained how these heaters work. Heaters, quote-unquote heaters, worked with Bella Oxmix and Piece of the Action that could blow out the entire wall. Yeah, I love that. Such an awkward, lovely scene.
Here's a weird thing. Speaking of those fancy heaters, this no-name trader who we bring up to Voyager, he's just allowed to keep that phaser rifle and a tricorder. Now, I did wonder why Tau stole uniforms. That makes no sense whatsoever. But this guy, they're like, yeah, you can go, and you can keep that stuff. Like, why? No, that belongs to you. You can literally beam him off the ship without that stuff. That is a good option for you, too, Chakotay, as long as you're in charge.
Wasn't there an episode that talked specifically about Voyager's technological contamination of the Delta Quadrant?
Yeah, I know. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought Tuvok's small talk very entertaining, and the reference, him being from Scandinavia, and of course the little Vulcan reference there as well. That all nice stuff. And of course, the Voyager computer has 47 million data channels.
Of course
it's 47. Yeah. But I did enjoy going through all the tech specs, like the operating temperature and all that stuff. I always read the manual, people. You need to, Here's a cool thing. You're talking about how much work Leonardo's cranking out in that 10 days. I like that he woke up and drew the dragon that he was dreaming about, which was kind of cool because if we go down this path of what the holodeck can do, what a holo character can do, that is a holo character being appropriately creative. That, in this case, this holodeck creation dreamed of electric dragons.
Oh, very Philip K. Dick of you.
Right.
Put a pin in that because I do have a point about that in discussion.
Okay, good.
So Da Vinci changed into his sleeping clothes, lamented the fact that he probably slept in a little too long. So assuming that he has no idea about the mobile emitter or what it does, because why would he? How does he change into anything?
Oh.
How does he actually physically remove anything from his body? Because he's literally, like the Doctor, like a hologram outside of the holodeck, but he's fixed to what the mobile emitter downloaded from his program.
Right. Maybe that's like a failsafe that the holo emitter has, is that the character can't turn off or remove that device. It's all good questions.
That 29th century technology, man, I'm telling you, man, it is literally the Deus Ex technology of our story.
Now, look, Tuvok has a very good point about returning to Voyager. I think he's right. But why is Janeway insistent about letting the Leonardo program run? It kind of doesn't make sense. Like, Leonardo is creative and talented, yes, absolutely. But what is the opportunity that Janeway thinks she's taking advantage of by letting the program just run? Like, cut your losses, take the equipment, go. Go home, you know?
It's almost as if you read the notes that I didn't post to the actual document before you wrote your notes.
Oh, funny. Okay, all right. This is going to get interesting. Yeah. I did like the 7 of 9 and Doctor scene. Suffice to say, I was correct. She was not. Just great 7 of 9 line. And I love the Doctor's need for gossip. Like, he's stuck in there and he can't take it anymore. And he wants to hear the profane Klingon insults, which I kind of want to hear too. And I'm sure that many of our listeners could share those with us.
It's like under a strange version of house arrest. You know?
Yeah, right. And he just can't take it, you know. 7 says it's illogical to refer to a holodeck program by name. And I thought that was interesting, but even if Leonardo isn't alive, he/it still has a name. And I would think that the Borg would understand all sorts of things, naturally occurring or not, having designations, having names, you know. But anyway, interesting point.
I think it's a clever way for the writers to use the word illogical with Jerry and with Tim, because their scene together was magical. I mean, so you have
so good.
Two people playing pretty much like in this emotionless space, you know, with 7 and with Tuvok, and it's like, even as emotionless as they are, they're so unbelievably subtle in their nuances.
Yes.
And that
it's like that it's the right level of being completely understanding but also a little competitive. And it's great.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Gold. Now, as far as the plot goes, again, so many questions here. We go a few short steps from we can't find the computer to it's there in the building and now we know everything about the building. Like it is that quick. That scene is good because Jerry Ryan and Tim Russ are so good.
Right.
But otherwise, like, if you follow the plot of that scene, it's like we know nothing, but there it is. Now we know everything about it. Go to time code 2609, back to this lovely, I said I was going to mention the matte paintings again. Here's another shot of a matte painting over the mountains. And I love it. There's a flying object over that matte painting. And I kept studying it and watching to see if I could get some detail out of it. And I kept thinking, well, whether it's just an airplane that they happen to capture in the film plate, or if it's a deliberate piece of animation, either way, it's great because it lends life to that matte painting.
I'll do you one better, John. I'll do you one better. At timestamp 2608, because we probably looked at the same matte painting.
Same shot, yeah.
Is that the Griffith Observatory in the background to the far right?
Oh, it might be.
Looking at that particular mountain range perspective of the, of that, what is it, like Hollywood Hill? Not the Hollywood Hills, but that area better than most. It just looked like that's where the Griffith Observatory would be. But again, it's just a matte painting.
I was kind of thinking the same thing because I was looking to see if there was an area where they covered the Hollywood sign with part of the matte.
Yeah.
So you would be right. Exactly to the right of that would be the observatory.
Right, because I saw the spire that someone's henchman, the guy, what's his name, Starling's henchman, shot Tuvok's Dodge Ram into and obliterated it, in
right there.
Future's End, Part 1 and 2. Yeah.
Right there. Yeah. All right, now we're in Leonardo's new workshop here on this planet, and Janeway is having the conversation with Tuvok remotely. Okay, Tau, how the hell did he get there? And just hear that conversation. Bear with me here, folks. The blocking, Janeway is literally walking toward where he was standing, Yeah. Don't think too hard.
Yeah. So there's that, and then there's this, Janeway's talking to her communicator, and then obviously, what you just said, like Tau just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then he snaps his fingers and kind of like does the motion, that miming of like hand it over to her, like hand over your communicator.
Yeah.
How does an alien know that shorthand? It's just
maybe that's one of the great universal truths. It's just like how every language on Earth has no, or some form of maybe that's it's also snap and motion.
Snap and hand over the communicator. It's just one of those things where I'm like, it's a little too human for me. Know? But anyway, but then again, so it's just disappearing, or appearing out of nowhere from whatever,
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Okay, Tau takes the comm badge, but then he gets knocked out by Leonardo. Janeway goes over and takes the weapon, which was very smart, but not her comm badge. Janeway, you're better than this.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Harry tells Chakotay that the holo emitter is 4.7 kilometers outside the city. That's our second
golf clap.
47
There
reference.
we go. Yeah. Now, I love my locations, and we have mentioned the locations quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But the location of the industrial complex, it's I don't think it's great. It's just a little. It's a little too much like, well, we were driving down Burbank Boulevard, and there was this place that had a bunch of gears and pipes and stuff, and we stopped here and set up filming for the day.
Somewhere along the line that must have made sense in the 90s, but that whole quote-unquote fortress that Leonardo and Katarina were at.
Yeah.
Now, I know production costs are a factor, but it's just a little too 20th century for me, and it kind of...
Yeah, it really is.
It took me out of the fantasy of where they were, very much like in Star Trek 2009, the Budweiser plant.
Yes, exactly.
That was the engineering room, quote-unquote. I'm doing air quotes for those of you who can't see this. The quote-unquote, the engineering room of the Enterprise was supposed to take place. I'm like, you can't... No. It's just no. Too many pipes, too many valves, too many sprockets, just too many 20th century things.
I have another pedantic question / complaint here. Mm-hmm. Does this planet not revolve around its sun? Because the whole idea of Leonardo determining that the secret entrance is on the side facing away from the sun, that only makes sense if the sun is in one place.
Yeah.
Because if it's east-west, okay, if the sun traverses east-west like it does on Earth, okay, it will either be on one side of the building or the other side of the building, okay? So if that door is on the east or the west, it's going to get lit up. Or if that door is on the north or the south, it's just going to have daylight. Because, we all know you build your artist studios with north or south-facing windows to get that light,
It's a very difficult question to answer, with alien north, south, east, and west.
So difficult.
Yeah.
So it must be like our moon, just locked, locked in one place. Yeah. Uh-huh. Now, important to know, there are, I believe they number it as they call from Voyager. They're watching this on the scanners from Voyager. There are 30 guards surrounding that building.
Yeah.
And then Tau shows up, and there must be more guards on their way. That's what I hear Janeway, I believe, say. And to you in the audience, this is how you stretch a budget. No guards to be seen Except for like one guy outside earlier and then one guy with Tau.
It's the threat of guards that are coming that's important.
It's the threat.
Yeah.
They are assumed guards.
Right. Assumed guards. That's our album for today. Assumed
our
guards.
Album.
Yeah.
Right.
That's our album.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, these guards, really Janeway has nothing to worry about because they're all really bad shots. I mean, they're in a giant, slow-moving, winged flying machine, and Tau's just like, yeah, you can't hit it.
They must be stormtroopers of some kind.
Yeah.
So I know that Leonardo da Vinci historically is a genius. I understand that, right? But exactly how did he assemble his new flying machine out of modern materials, as Janeway pointed out, like duranium alloy, without knowledge of the tools to bend and heat and forge the metals? Yeah. Now, I know that this happened in 10 days, and I know he's a genius, but this is literally asking like somebody to basically blacksmith like Iron Age tools with Bronze Age technology.
Yeah.
Right. The metallurgy, it just, you don't know it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or build a computer out of stone knives and bear skins.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do that.
Mm-hmm.
And look, in the end, they get the mobile emitter back, which is great. Keep the doctor happy. They get the computer core back, which is great. But may I point out to you that they left a lot of other stuff on that planet. And these people are traders. They are profiteers. I imagine that if you came back very soon after, it would be like Sigma Iosha all over again, and this place would be crawling with replica Starfleet gear.
Now that our concerning flight is underway, you are free to unfasten your seatbelts and move around the cabin, but not over there. Someone might randomly beam you away if you stand over there.
We'll get right back to Concerning Flight after a word from this week's sponsor, Rocket Money.
So here we are, we're winding down the holiday season, about to start the new year, and sometimes, if you're like me, you want to take a look at your bank balance because a lot of money has been going in, a lot more money has been going out, and sometimes you just feel it's flying out of your account, and you have no idea where it's going. Now, sometimes it's purchases here, sometimes it's purchases there, and I think sometimes it's subscriptions that you don't even remember subscribing to. And between streaming services and fitness apps and delivery services and parenting apps and this and that, it's endless. And I am the first one to be guilty of all of that. So I used Rocket Money to help me find out what subscriptions I'm actually spending money on. And it was shocking. But I had them cancel the ones I didn't want anymore.
I think of it this way. Did you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or any that you paid for twice and didn't realize it? Because I've been exactly in that same boat. In fact, I was in that same boat with my family very recently, finding multiple instances of subscriptions and finding subscriptions that have been completely forgotten about. Now, you can handle that the old-fashioned way and make a long list and go through every credit card statement, every bank statement, and try to identify those. Or you could let Rocket Money do the heavy lifting for you and find where those subscriptions and duplicates are with the push of a button. Now, if I ask you how many subscriptions you have, would you be able to tell me? Would you be able to list them all and tell me how much you're paying? I can tell you that I might come up with a number off the top of my head, and it would be completely wrong.
Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels those unwanted subscriptions. Like John, you were saying, duplicate subscriptions, and it monitors your spending and it helps you lower your bills. How does it do that? Lowers your spending, reduces all of those unwanted subscriptions. I can see all of those in one place, and if I see something I don't want, I can cancel it with a tap at Rocket Money. I never have to get on the phone with customer service, and they'll even try and get you a refund for the last couple of months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest.
You know, that is such an important point that I think a lot of people overlook. One of the great features about Rocket Money Premium is that their customer service will do all the work. They will get on the phone. They will negotiate to lower your bill, and they'll help cancel those pesky subscriptions where maybe they're a little hesitant to just instantly cancel if you request it. I think about it sometimes, and getting on the phone with a customer service representative to try to cancel something, that becomes a full-time job, and that's a job that I don't want. So I'm happy to let Rocket Money take that over for me. Now, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Think about that number one more time. An average of $720 a year. To me, that is definitely money that I could spend someplace else and be a lot happier with it in my pocket.
You work hard for your money, and you want to save as much as you can. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Stop wasting money on double hits, on subscriptions that you don't even remember subscribing to. Cancel those unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/missionlog. That's rocketmoney.com/missionlog. rocketmoney.com/missionlog.
All right, Norman, sometimes you land upon an episode where I think there are some clever lines, some good ideas are just kind of thrown out to us, the audience, to kick around. But then I ask myself, well, wait, is the episode actually about that or not? Or was it just the episode is kind of chugging along because you got plot point to plot point, and then, well, this seems like a good opportunity to drop in a line that is clever or interesting, whether we revisit that or not, or dig deeper or not. And I do think that there's a nice exchange that Leonardo has with Captain Janeway. When are we not in prison? When are our lives free from the influence of those who have more power than us? And then fast forward a little bit, if this new world is a cage, then it is a cage of gold. And I think back to, well, The Cage, the very first episode of Star Trek, and that is the idea partially that is being explored there. And we get to see that through two very different sets of eyes. We get to see it through Pike, who in The Cage, not to be confused with Menagerie, is absolutely horrified at the idea of living in this cage, even though there is so much appeal there for a life that he kind of wishes he had. Mm-hmm. And then there is the very different appeal for Vina, who has been through the horror of that ship crash and wants to live out her life of that fantasy. And it was interesting to put those words into Leonardo's mouth, I thought, because the reality, in my mind, the reality is that Leonardo da Vinci would want to experience as much freedom as he can, but also as an artist who is beholden to his benefactors, there is a certain economic reality he has to deal with.
Sure.
But we're dealing with holodeck Leonardo.
Yeah.
And the holodeck characters, by their very nature, are bound by the confines of the holodeck, or in this case, the holo emitter, which is kind of nice, but he's not even aware because, again, he is a holodeck character. He's not even aware of the difference of this being, quote-unquote, a real world versus the holodeck constructed world of his workshop, where he still has the freedom to go to France and find a new benefactor and do whatever he wants to do.
They're very big ideas like going on in this episode. And I wanted to address, because you've introduced like two or three of them.
There's a lot of stuff there.
Right? I wanted to address, like, if this new world is a cage and the cage of gold, there's a famous Rush lyric from my favorite Rush song called Limelight, and it says that we're each another's audience outside a gilded cage, so that's how our perception of each other may be because of the way that society has shaped the way that Leonardo has described who he is in his career. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of the episode. Mm-hmm. He's frustrated not because he failed, he's frustrated because the Florentine thought that he was a failure. Yeah. Because he fell, because his machine didn't work. He's like, they don't understand that in the course of this process, there's going to be failure until you actually reach success.
Right.
But he doesn't have that intellectual connection with these people. because we're each and other's audience outside the gilded cage. Once you're in the gilded cage, once you're with people of influence, with intelligence, with understanding, with means, then you'll be able to experiment freely as he wants to, but that's going to get into a point I'm going to make a little bit later on. What I wanted to talk about, though, is something that is it's problematic for me in this episode, because you mentioned Leonardo being the hologram version of Leonardo.
Right.
It's not Leonardo da Vinci. It's the hologram of Leonardo da Vinci. And there's a point that I want to make about genius cannot be programmed.
Okay. All right. I'm here to go with you on it. Yeah.
All right. So Janeway says to Tuvok, when Tuvok says he's just a hologram, Janeway says, this is Leonardo da Vinci we're talking about. Simulation or not, he's one of the greatest creative minds in Earth's history. But he is still a simulation in this context.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I understand that Leonardo da Vinci is one of the greatest inventors and intellectuals human history has ever known.
Yeah.
But genius itself can't be programmed or codified, right? True genius is about being able to organically absorb and process and utilize information and turn it into something extraordinary, whether it's science or technology or art or music, poetry, whatever. It's done in a way that can't be recreated, understood. That's why there's only one Mozart. There's only one Da Vinci. There's only one Einstein, right?
Yeah.
Their genius is activated at a certain point of inspiration. So you have that, that famous Venn diagram of perspiration and inspiration, and in the middle of that comes something magical, right? So it's not that his program is faulty. It's just that it's only programmed based on the history that is known.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. I want to push back a little to see if you, and certainly our audience, because I'm curious what everybody has to say about this. So the Leonardo program is specifically based on all the knowledge of Leonardo da Vinci. And even today in the early 21st century, we have whatever existing books he had, whatever existing sketches and diagrams. There's a great museum. So there's a wealth of knowledge, and then hopefully there is even more to be uncovered in the future. So in theory, you could have a computer that synthesizes all of the information possible to know about Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes.
All right. And then that program would be somewhat limited because, yes, there are finite boundaries to that knowledge of Leonardo da Vinci. But the EMH is the same thing. The EMH. Have I got to step ahead of you here?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the EMH is a holographic entity that is based on the synthesis of all the available medical knowledge that may be needed in Starfleet activation, in Starfleet necessary places. But I think we can all agree that the Doctor has grown beyond that programming. Has he been creative beyond that program? He created a family for himself. So is that not creativity?
I think that, the thing is, I'm glad you brought that up, because I brought that up in my own notes, too. And that's the great juxtaposition between these two characters. When Janeway said what she said, because she's basically vouching for Da Vinci, why she was pushing back against Tuvok to keep him activated, because he says he's one of the greatest creative minds in Earth's history. I understand that. That's true. I'm not debating that at all. I don't think that's part of the discussion. What I am debating is that Da Vinci's genius comes from a point of organic thought and inspiration that can't be codified by what we understand from history. History only understands Da Vinci from his manuals, from his teachings, from anything that has been written down or has been diagrammed or has been, again, created in artwork, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's Da Vinci. But what you can't capture is the moment when he looks at a bird and says, I need to find a way to make this fly. I need to understand the mechanism of the science that makes a bird fly to capture flight, or a butterfly, or a ray of sunlight, or things of that nature. That can't be caught because he didn't write those things down, right? Those points of inspiration that created this vast unlocking of the universe that he did, right? Yeah. So that's something that, again, with the Doctor was programmed to understand every single possible point of data about medicine.
Yeah.
No one's disputing that. The inspiration for him to grow isn't the same as Da Vinci's pre-programmed body of knowledge that Janeway says that is his genius. You can't recapture Da Vinci's genius because it's uncapturable, if that's a word.
Huh.
Right?
Okay.
But the doctor was created by Zimmerman, and Zimmerman said the EMH needs to have this body of knowledge as a program. Anything past that is the doctor. But he's already born of a certain library of knowledge. You can't recreate Da Vinci's library of knowledge because it never existed historically for people to have to begin with.
But see, here's where I think, though, that holodeck Leonardo is clearly a different entity from the real Leonardo da Vinci. And maybe it's the nature of what the holodeck program does. Maybe it's the nature of the holo emitter. Maybe it's the nature of having outside unpredictable influence. But we get to a point in this episode where holodeck Leonardo has decided to go off to France. And this Leonardo that is going off to France, just speculate, if you will, that holodeck program keeps running. You know, it's like Moriarty sitting in that little box on Picard's desk, right?
Right.
It could just theoretically keep running. This Leonardo goes to France with the knowledge that he has gained in his time on that alien world with a working flying machine. And literally at that point, then, I suppose it's not Leonardo, but it is the holodeck mechanism that has a certain level of creativity that is now making an alternate history of, you know, and literally, so that Leonardo, you could write a whole other, turn this into a novel or a graphic novel. Here's Leonardo going to France to meet the king, but guess what? Now the flying machine works.
Yeah.
And now this Leonardo has knowledge of a weapon that fires lightning. And okay.
You could change the course of human history, but that's like a wonderful, like, alternative universe, like, in Elseworlds, if you will, if you're a comic book fan.
But that is a creative change that has occurred in this thing that is just purely a construct of the holodeck computer.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that he has the ability to learn.
Yeah.
Right? It's just that when Janeway says, this is Leonardo da Vinci we're talking about, it's not.
It's not. I agree.
It is a simulation. I mean, she says, simulation or not, he's one of the greatest creative minds in Earth's history. Now, what he takes with the stimuli that happens to him after the fact is different.
Yeah.
And obviously someone of his genius intellect would be incredibly influential when it comes to absorbing any kind of information. Because I think one of the things that, we don't want to gloss over too much is that he is not close-minded to the opportunity of learning.
Well, I do think that's one of the strengths of the episode, and one of the strengths of the portrayal of Leonardo da Vinci is that he, and this is good writing, is that he doesn't know more than Leonardo da Vinci would know. And that's critical, because you can't have a Leonardo da Vinci then that, okay, he sees the phaser, he picks it up, this is an incredible weapon, look what it can do. But he is not a Leonardo da Vinci that suddenly understands what a transistor or a translator, if we're being Star Trek here, he doesn't understand what those are, or what a, warp plasma manifold is. He just knows that it's parts. And he's in a new world, and he has new materials, and he's in a new world.
And Janeway also says that he describes things as if they were of his time.
Right. Yeah,
so
and I think that's quite good. And coming back around toward the end of the episode, I really like her scene, not confronting him, but trying to match the intellectual curiosity and concern that he has about where he is. And she says, and as a man, can you accept that there may be certain realities beyond the limits of your comprehension? And he says, if I could not accept that, then I would be a fool. And it's a really nice line that speaks to his intellectual curiosity and playing in that space of even not knowing what you don't know. It reminds me of a meme that's been going around quite a bit lately, and it's just a quick grab of an interview that Neil deGrasse Tyson was doing with someone and describing, human beings having about a 3% difference in DNA with chimpanzees, and yet we cannot have a conversation with chimpanzees. We are unable to match them or have them match us intellectually and being able to find common ground there. So imagine then an alien species that has a 3% difference genetically with us. And there you have it, so it is a leap of our imagination to then be able to tell ourselves like, oh, wait, for as much as we think we can understand, there are very clearly things in the universe that we don't know that we don't know.
Right. But it's the arrogance, it's the hubris of humanity that says, we know. We're just going to fake it till we make it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a huge problem. I want to switch gears a little bit here, though.
Yeah, please.
So, I mean, there's a wonderful story with Janeway and with Da Vinci and what we've been talking about, just in terms of what this program is capable of doing. But I want to go revisit a topic that's it's important to me, and it's a little sensitive. I think in terms of representation in Star Trek. This is kind of like, you have to ask the question: will Harry always be an ensign because of the way he acts, right? So there's a scene that I want to bring up, and I know that maybe some of the audience out there, they're probably tired of hearing me say this, but you know what? That's because you're not an Asian male that's Harry's age and has been misrepresented so far in Star Trek.
Yeah.
So, I will say that, openly, and if you want to send me the emails, please do. When Seven says to Harry when he arrived to help her in the astrometrics lab, Seven says, an algorithmic feedback is interfering with a resolution. Decompile data, banks 59 through 17, and attempt to isolate it now.
Yeah.
Or you should leave. Seven is addressing Harry Kim, Ensign Harry Kim, an officer of Starfleet and an officer of Voyager, as if he were the junior officer to her.
Yeah.
And why? That's the big question I want to ask. Why? More importantly, why does he let her? And most importantly, why are the writers writing him this way? Okay?
Yeah.
And he really doesn't stand up for himself. So he acts like the model minority, like, I'm just here to help. I'm here to help. I'm apologizing if I've offended thee, but I'm here to help. Yeah. So this should not exist in the Gene Roddenberry 24th century, right?
Yeah.
Star Trek leads us to believe, and Starfleet leads us to believe, that someone like a Harry Kim is one of the best and brightest that humanity has to offer. And yet, in this particular situation and in Revulsion, he shrinks away from the authority that he has earned.
Yeah.
And he has worked hard for. So for me, as someone who is not only Garrett's, contemporary, but Harry's contemporary as well, it's like the potential of having somebody cast and represented as this young Asian man, it's so misused in this series and squandered. I feel like this is one of those examples of Star Trek casting representation, quote unquote, being more lip service and pandering just to say, hey, look, we have diversity in our cast, but they don't really know what to do with it.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to take this a little bit of a sidestep because I totally get and respect where you're coming from, and you have a specific and unique reaction and understanding of this. I've already voiced my outrage over the scenes in Revulsion, and then the fact that that would come back as a wink, wink, nudge, nudge point in his interaction with B'Elanna a couple episodes later. And here we are again a couple more episodes later, and we keep playing this really unearned relationship with these. They're not even a relationship. This antagonism that is really uncomfortable. And what I wish would come out of it, what I wish had come out of it 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago, or at least resolved by now, is that you can take a character like Harry. Of course, we've had him now for 3.5 years. You can take a character who is wet behind the ears, back when it was Caretaker, right? But this guy has got to have found some agency by now.
He's died, John.
He's died and come
died.
back. Yeah. And was replaced by other Harry.
Right.
You know, this is somebody who has been through a lot, who has worked hard, earned the position that he has, as you so correctly pointed out. And to not give him the agency of being able to course correct and realize, like, oh, wait, I'm better than this. And I'm better than being put down by this person. I'm better than being made fun of for this supposed, you know, quote unquote failure. Again, big finger quotes here with 7. Like, that is really driving home what is a bad joke to begin with.
Norman and John are about to bring this concerning flight in for a landing, so please stow your tray tables and return your seats to their upright position.
There's an Iron Maiden lyric, John, that I'd like to bring up for you.
I think this is a mission log first.
Yeah.
I don't think
Iron
we
Maiden?
quoted Iron Maiden. Yeah.
So there's a song of theirs from an album called Peace of Mind, and there's a lyric from the Flight of Icarus: "Fly like your way on, like an eagle, fly too high to the sun." And this is like something like that is very akin to a concerning flight, because you don't want to fly too close to the sun, right? You don't want to be like Icarus. You don't want to be the Flight of Icarus, you know. But we came really, really close, I think, to maybe melting a little of the wax in our feathers. Maybe coming too close to the sun with our discussion. So
with our strong opinions.
With our strong opinions. So, we're, you know, as we do here in Mission Log, you know, we look at, does this episode hold up? And we're going to see if we can find like the morals, meanings, and messages. But I think that you may have tipped your hand a little bit on how you feel about this episode.
I've been doing this too long, where sometimes I come out hot and I feel like the opinion, the wrap up is already built into the intro. Maybe not quite that far back, but yeah. Look, when we're concerning flight, I feel like I should love this episode. I mean, look, John Rhys Davies is so fun to watch, and I like spending time on location and letting Voyager be fantastical. One might even say whimsical from time to time. But the problem is, I don't love this episode. And I couldn't help but sit here and analyze it rather than just letting it be the escapist episode that it is meant to be, that it is intended to be. I think part of the problem is with the plot, that there are so many coincidences and things that just happen rather than unfold logically, that feel like they're actually motivated. And that makes me feel very disconnected from the story. And you can go back and listen to their observations segment where I'm saying, like, okay, a guy just shows up. Tao is just in the room, and they just got this piece of equipment, and they just showed up at the fortress. You know, it's stuff like that I'll give you one or two of those in an episode, because sometimes you just have to have the shorthand to make the story happen. But when I feel like the whole story is based around moments like that, it really takes me out of it. But I can really appreciate the problem here, or at least the opportunity here for the writers and for the production. Okay, you got a great actor, and we don't want to be stuck in the holodeck for an entire episode with that actor. And we don't want to do another holodeck goes insane episode. So what do? Well, you think outside the box, which this episode is very clearly trying to do. But I can't say that it works. I can't say that maybe like the EMH's program, it is greater than the sum of its parts. You know, and maybe that is partly inherent in the differences in the Leonardo program versus the EMH program. Is that the Leonardo program really can't be bigger than the sum of its parts. That's kind of what happens in this episode. Now, look, I will remember John Rhys Davies' performance as Leonardo very fondly. Can't say that I'm going to remember this episode the same way. And honestly, I was surprised to go back to the notes and think, oh, wait, we've only seen him twice.
Yeah.
And this is it, because he feels like a much bigger presence across Voyager. And I think partly because he has some really nice moments with Janeway here. But I will look at this as a missed opportunity, like, wow, we could have gotten so much more out of him. It could have been a much more interesting story. I think they aimed high, but maybe I'm feeling the same frustration that Joe Menosky felt here.
No, I mean, that's fair. I mean, I wanted to love this episode for its ideas, but I just ended up just liking it, and it was kind of one of those go nowhere, do nothing episodes.
Right, GND and
GND
Star Trek. Yeah.
I think that it was like wonderfully uncomplicated in one way, but could have serviced certain things in a different way. I think that it could have fallen flat entirely if it weren't for the fact that you had John Rhys-Davies as Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, he's a powerhouse actor. I mean, he's graced the small screen, he's graced the large screen, he's graced, the live stage. Yeah. He is just a tour de force, but it's hard to lean on a talent like that and say that this is what makes the episode great. And it's really one of the only things that makes this episode great. I do love the fact that the construct of Leonardo da Vinci is kind of like this walking, talking, dynamic, living argument between Leonardo da Vinci and his consciousness about Arthur C. Clarke's third law. Right? Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Because there's a scene where Da Vinci says to Janeway, I cannot believe it. I will not believe it. My mind cannot accept the evidence of my eyes. Is this sorcery? Are we in purgatory? Janeway says, neither. You said yourself this place was full of marvels. Da Vinci says, marvels, yes. But this is magic. Enchantment, not science. And I refuse to believe in enchantment. I love that he's wrestling with what his genius intellect knows and what he has experienced. And that's where Clarke's third law comes into place. But I do think that this episode really kind of like finds its center where Janeway says to Da Vinci, as a sparrow, your mind would be too small, even with the best of teachers. And Da Vinci says, as Aristotle himself were to perch on my branch and lecture till he fell off from exhaustion, still the limits of my mind would prevent me from understanding the limits of your comprehension. And Da Vinci says, I could not accept that, and I would be a fool. Yeah, I think that that's the scene where everything crystallized in that Gene Roddenberry kind of way, where you have a wonderful episode, again, a GNDN episode, but then you have this moment like 3/4 of the way in. And I think that because it's so well acted and because maybe, John Rhys-Davies found this humility in Da Vinci that maybe we have not yet seen before or maybe understood about Da Vinci. Because think about where he came from the beginning of the episode to the end of the episode. In the beginning of the episode, he was yelling at the Florentine thing, you're idiots, you're fools, you're animals. And now he's like, I don't understand everything. Right? Yeah. And I think that's a good lesson for us. I think that my only real critique about this episode is, once again, we see Harry marginalized and his character marginalized for no reason, but at least for me as an audience member, just like yourselves out there, just to reference like this cringe-worthiness relationship that he has with Seven. And that started in Revulsion. So sometimes, and again, this is my opinion only. My opinion does not reflect the opinions of either John or Roddenberry Entertainment, but sometimes I feel that casting representation in Star Trek is more lip service and pandering than to say, and just to say, hey, look, there's diversity in our casting to the audience, as opposed to leaning into understanding what that casting actually really means to the people who are watching it that find it significant, like me. Like when I saw Garrett cast as an Asian man my age, and then seeing him fall under the same complexities of a man my age in the 24th century, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yeah, he needed to grow. He needed to grow beyond his programming. Humanity in general needed to grow beyond its programming here, right? Yeah.
Well, look, trying to come up with some messages, what did we take away? We learned the rest of you do not have the privilege of looking at our page of notes that Norman and I share with each other. And very specifically, we do not share our notes with each other going into the episode recording, as most everybody knows. And I took no notes for this section, which you probably saw like, oh, hey, there's nothing there.
I never worry about you, John. You're a professional, like, par excellence.
Well, in History of the World Part 1, they called that something else. An improviser, right?
Yeah.
They called it something else. Because I think this episode does not get to a place where it actually has a message. I think this is a whimsical, plot-driven episode that is designed to get our characters together and have them go on an adventure. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. There are plenty of episodes of Star Trek where that happens, and your mileage may vary as to whether that connects with you and you enjoy it, or if you're like me with this one and you say, like, I'm not quite connected here. I think that there are many great scenes here, and I'm glad that you pulled the dialogue from those that almost give us something to think about. But the problem is the episode never actually takes the chance for that to be a thing that it is about. So there's this question here of whether or not the Leonardo program can grow beyond the series of ones and zeros that it is, with the very definite parameters that it has. Is that spark of creativity actually there? And I very much like your argument that it is not, that it can't be by definition. So we don't really have a way to grow to that. And does that become maybe even an existential problem for this holographic program? Could that Leonardo have some self-awareness in the way that Moriarty does, or that the EMH does, and say, well, wait, I could potentially grow beyond what I am, but I am a historical figure, therefore I can't. Right? This would be interesting stuff, right? And I think less so for Leonardo, but hopefully for the audience, we do get to ponder this idea that you pulled, my other favorite lines here in the episode, about Leonardo having to grapple with the idea that there is a truth to reality beyond what he can experience with his very limited knowledge. This is one of those moments where Star Trek does a pretty good idea every now and then of giving us like a cosmic reset and saying, well, you think you're pretty smart as humans. You think you have these things like the scientific method and a spark for creativity and a way to work through problems. However, remember, you might actually just be that sparrow sitting on a tree branch. And as hard as someone else might come along and try to explain to you that there is a whole world, a whole universe beyond that, you may not even comprehend it. And I think that's a pretty good lesson to remind ourselves of every now and then, that the universe is a much bigger, much more complex and grand place than we think of it here from being perched on our branch on Earth. So there you go, Norman. What else you got for us?
For a non-scripted insight, that was absolutely beautiful, John. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Look, Star Trek did the work. I just had to process it a little bit.
I love messages when it comes to free will and free thought. And there is a quote that Da Vinci says that crystallizes this episode for me for a message. When are we not in prison? When are our lives free from the influence of those who have more power than us? If this new world is a cage, then it is a cage of gold, of marvels, of opportunities. If this prince is violent, violence can be tempered. When I saw that line, not only was it beautifully acted, by John Rhys Davies, but it struck such a chord in me because it's not just a powerful message from Da Vinci's time, but it's a powerful message now, right? And when you take this in context of today's socio-political climate, it seems more relevant than ever. Now, in this episode, Da Vinci is frustrated to the point of rage, right? Because his ability to think openly, to engage in critical discussion, to fearlessly create, right? To fail spectacularly. All of these freedoms, right, are in many ways scrutinized by what we have been programmed as a society at large to think and to feel and to follow. How many times on social media do we applaud and pile on failures, right? But how many times do we applaud success? I mean, kind of like do the math on that, right? So how much talent, has been squandered in our society because the society, refuses to embrace diversity and cultural differences? How many geniuses like Leonardo da Vinci have been silenced this way? How much human potential has been squandered because individual achievement and expressive freedoms don't conform to the status quo of societal norms, quote unquote, right? Now, with Leonardo da Vinci's quote, I agree that the cage is gilded, sure. But there's also a cautionary tale with Da Vinci's belief that the grass is greener on the other side of the world, because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to leave Italy. He wanted to go to America. He wanted to find something that was more promising, more accepting, more open-minded. But at the same time, though, until we reach that stage where humanity is on Gene Roddenberry's side of the vision that shows us that these barriers that hold us back, that divides us and separates us from coming together to reach our fullest potential as a human race, we will unfortunately continue to feel as Da Vinci feels when small-minded people, ignorant people en masse, prevent us from moving towards this better future. I will quote Rush.
Yes.
Once again, and this is unscripted, though. This is, again, from Limelight, though. All the world's indeed a stage. We are merely players, performers, and portrayers, each another's audience, outside the gilded cage.
Nice. Mission Log is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. If you would like to support us directly, you can do so at patreon.com/missionlog for early access to shows and the Mission Log Discord. Our website is missionlogpodcast.com, and for more Star Trek news and discussion, visit trekmovie.com.
On the next Mission Log, Mortal Coil.
Some of the music for Mission Log provided by Warp 11, online at warp11.com. Special thanks to consulting producers, Matt Esposito, Homer Frizzell, Tom Kozak, Julie Miller, Mike Richards, Mike Shadwell, Paul Shadwell, and David Takechi. We know you have a choice when you travel, so thank you for joining us on what was apparently a very concerning flight. End transmission.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.